I good? Are we on? Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, those in the auditorium and those online. Welcome to another installment of the Business and Live series. For those of you who already know and those of you who do not know, Business and Live series is a platform that speaks about life, speaks about business, that gives you the tools and knowledge that you need to take your life, your business, your career from one stage to the other. My name is Akatu Ochai. I am a legal practitioner, amongst other hats that I wear. And it is once again my pleasure and my privilege to be here to have another conversation with us. I think today's topic is a very interesting one, and one which is coming at just the right time. We're almost literally at the half mark point of the year, and so a lot of us started this year probably with things that we hoped to achieve, goals that we wanted to or hoped to attain, and I believe that today's conversation will, if we have lost our way, today's conversation will help to bring us back. Now, our topic of discussion today is the courage to grow. The courage to grow. Before we go into the topic proper, there are a couple of things that I want to put out there. A couple of things that I want to discuss. Okay. As I mentioned in my introduction, I am a legal practitioner by profession. Now, one of the things that we as legal practitioners are very conversant with is what we call rebuttable and non-rebuttable or irrebuttable presumptions. Rebuttable and irrebuttable presumptions. Now, very simply put, a rebuttable presumption is a presumption that is generally accepted as true unless there is evidence to the contrary, okay? So a rebuttable presumption is any presumption that is generally accepted as true unless evidence has been presented to the contrary. And so, for example, in law, there is a presumption of innocence for anyone who is, any accused person in court has that privilege of the presumption of innocence. So basically, everybody is presumed to be innocent until you are proven guilty. And so that's a rebuttable presumption. The presumption of your innocence can be rebutted if evidence is brought forward to show your guilt in the perpetration of a crime. Okay, so that's a rebuttable presumption. On the other hand, I said we have the irrebuttable presumptions, right? The non-rebuttable presumptions, which are facts, which are presumptions that cannot be challenged by evidence. They are sacrosanct. Okay, so an example of that, for instance, is that the earth is round. The earth is round. And even though I know that there is debates in the public space as to the authenticity of that claim, as far as we know, till this moment, the earth is round. Another irrebuttable presumption would be, I am a man. But then, come to think of it, anyway, let's not even go there, okay? So, irrebuttable presumption, I am a man. Now, okay, so the topic of our conversation today, is also based on my presumption, right? Now, whether this presumption is rebuttable or irrebuttable depends on you who is listening, right? But my presumption today is that everyone taking part in this conversation, whether it's physically or virtually, desire growth in your career, in your relationships, you desire growth in influence. Now, there is a moment in everyone's life when staying where you are becomes way more painful than the fear of moving forward. I was watching a documentary a few days ago, a very fascinating documentary. I love wildlife documentaries. So this particular one was about a goose, a particular breed of goose, and I cannot for the life of me remember the name of the breed. But this particular type of goose makes its nest on a very high frozen cliff edge. Okay? That's where it makes its nest and lays its eggs. Now, they usually don't have laid more than 2 eggs. So this goose laid its eggs, and then eventually the eggs hatched. And as birds tend to do, the parents fly back and forth, feeding those chicks until they get to a certain age. Now, this cliff I'm talking about, I'm not talking about a 100-foot drop. I mean, it's a really high drop. The chicks then face a dilemma because they have grown to the point where the nest simply can no longer sustain them. And so they face the dilemma of either taking a leap out of that nest, which is suspended hundreds of feet in the air, or they simply stay there and freeze to death. A lot of times, as human beings, as individuals, as business people, as career people, as people in relationships, we get to a crossroads where we know instinctively that if we do not take that next step, that could literally be the death of our business, the death of our career, the death of our relationships, and so on and so forth. But let me go back to the goose story. So these 2 little geese chicks are hanging there. They're sitting there in their nest, hundreds of feet up in the air. And mind you, they don't have wings yet. They don't have feathers yet, so they cannot fly, right? They simply have to take a leap of faith. They have to get that courage to jump off that closing cliff face. And one after the other, they both took the leap. They both took the leap. And they took the leap to the next stage of their growth. Today we're not talking about motivation. We're talking about courage. That same type of courage that it took those little chicks to jump to the next stage of their growth. That's the type of courage that we're talking about now. The type of courage that makes you move even when you are afraid, even when you are shaking. This class is designed to help you cultivate the courage to take that next step in your business, to take that next step in your career, to take that next step in your relationship or even in your personal growth. So whether you are stuck at a crossroads or you are battling self-doubts or you are simply unsure of what to do next, I do believe that by the end of today's session you would have all the tools that you need at your disposal to take the next steps with boldness. So let's get on to the main conversations, and we're going to start with a definition. Let me have the next slide, please. We're going to discuss courage. The topic is the courage to grow. So they say it's good to begin at the beginning, right? So what is courage? What is courage? So if you go to your dictionary or your thesaurus, you will see lots of descriptions and definitions of courage. But I have pinpointed just 2 definitions, right? Courage is the ability to do something that frightens you. The ability to do something that frightens you. Emphasis is on the word do. Courage is the ability to face fear and danger even when you are afraid. So from these definitions, courage does not remove the presence of fear. It does not remove the presence of fear. Courage is merely your ability to act, to take action in the face of fear. Before we go further, I want us to look at some foundational principles. And these principles are going to come to play as we go along. Let's have the next slide. Next slide. Okay, let's go back. So remember I said courage does not negate the presence of fear. It's simply you taking action even in the presence of fear, right? Now, there are different ways that we define courage, we describe courage, but let's look at fear. And I'm someone who loves acronyms. I love, and I'm sure that if you don't already know that, it will become clear along the way, okay? So what is fear? One acronym for fear is false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real, right? So it's self-explanatory. A lot of times, the thing that we are afraid of that seems so real, so tangible to us, is actually false data. It's false data. And that's why it's imperative that we do not take actions from a place of fear, right? The second acronym for fear is, and I like this one, is face everything and rise. Face everything and rise. Now remember that I said that courage is a decision and it's an action. It's a decision to take action. It's a decision to act even in the face of fear. It does not remove the fear. It's simply you acting despite the fear, right? And what is act? A stands for acknowledge the fear. It does not remove the fear. You are still afraid. C stands for challenge the lie. Because a lot of times, the thing that we are afraid of the most, the thing that stops us from taking that next step, the thing that stops us from growing, that we hold to be fact, are actually lies. They are limiting beliefs. Okay? And then the T stands for take action. Take action. Next slide. Let's look at some principles. And this will still help us along the way. So these are the foundational principles for this class, right? Personal growth is intentional. It doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen by default. It happens by decision. It is intentional. Now, courage is a muscle. And like every other muscle, the more you use it, the stronger it becomes. If you go to the gym and you lift weights, over time, your biceps get stronger. Your calf muscles get stronger. You're able to lift more weights the longer and the more consistently you do that exercise. Now, the right action is contextual. And what I mean by this is that there is no one size fits all. There is no one size fits all that you would say this is the right action, right? The right action is one which is aligned with your values, one which aligns with your goals, right? So the right action aligns with your values and your goals. Fear is, okay, that's a typo, I'm sorry. Fear is data, not a directive. Fear is data, not a directive. So fear often would contain clues to the things that matter the most. So rather than run away from your fears, face it, learn from it. And then lastly, clarity precedes courage. Clarity precedes college. Clarity precedes courage. I beg your pardon. It simply means that you move more confidently when you know what you want. When you have clarity about what you want, you move more boldly. Next slide. Right. So having said all that, let me and the conversation is almost over. But let me end this conversation by giving you a 5-point framework that I designed that will help to empower you to cultivate the courage for you to grow. So I call it the growth framework, right? The growth framework. Next slide. Okay, so G stands for ground yourself in reality. Ground yourself in reality. We must be, as someone who wants to grow, who seeks growth, you must become deeply, even intimately aware of where you are right now. You must become aware of where you are right now. This is not the time. There's a time for everything. But this is not the time for statements of faith. So for instance, if you need to grow your finances, you must acknowledge where you are presently, what your financial state is presently. You must acknowledge it. You must understand it. You must become intimately aware of of where you stand financially. Because it is when you know where you are that you can plot your growth. You can plot your journey to where you want to go, right? So it's not the time for statements of faith, or it's not the time for affirmations. It's the time for you to become intimately aware of where you are. You know, when a baby is born, and when a baby starts to crawl on her belly, right? That baby does not move from crawling on her belly to running in one day. It's a process. It's a process of crawling, sitting, standing, walking, and then running. So let's assume that God has gifted this baby with great intelligence, that even at that young age, he or she has the intellectual capacity of an adult and can reason, but is still stuck in a baby's body, right? That baby would still have to think and plan and take one step before the other, before that baby begins to run. Simply because the needs of each stage of evolution, the needs of each stage of growth are different. And so if you are not aware of where you are currently, where you are presently, you will be unable to make the right choices to feed your growth for today. Does that make sense? All right. So let's move to the next one. Sorry, let's go back. Oh, okay. So let's talk about the life clarity wheel. The life clarity wheel is simply a tool that helps you to rate your satisfaction in 8 key areas of your life. 8 key areas of your life. So imagine a car tire, right? And that car tire has, or let's say a bicycle tire with spokes, or a car tire with rims, right? And those rims divide that tire into 8 segments. If one of those segments is flat, how would the ride feel? So if you are sitting inside a car and you are running on a flat tire, how does that ride feel? If a car is in motion and the tire is flat, how does that ride feel? Bumpy. Thank you. So the clarity wheel helps you to rate your satisfaction in 8 key areas of your life. So, for instance, those 8 key and those 8 keys are different for everybody. I mean, those 8 areas are different for everybody, right? So it may be, for instance, career, business, finance. Who can give me another? Career, business, finance, marriage or relationship, right? Education, spirituality, health, and one last one. One last one. I'm throwing it to you guys. One last one. Okay. Say again? No. So every area of your life still interacts with your environment. Okay, for let's just say, for instance, social life. Although even environment is actually yes, because your environment, a lot of times we are products of our environment, right? So your environment could either stifle your growth or enhance your growth. So let's go with environment. So you have career, business, finances, relationships, health, education, environment, spirituality, education. Okay. So of all these 8, you rate these 8 segments from 1 to 10. Each of these segments has a satisfaction rating of 1 to 10. 1, of course, being that which you are least satisfied with, 10 being that which you are most satisfied with. Now, you would find out that when you look at that, the clarity wheel, you are not going to rate 10 over 10 in all 8 segments. You are not going to rate, for some you may rate 8, others you may rate 2, others you may rate 5, and so on and so forth. The idea is to focus on the areas where you have the least satisfaction and grow those areas. And then you move on to the next until you have a well-rounded tire, a well-rounded wheel. Okay, let's move on. So that's G, right? Ground yourself in reality. R is reframe your fears. Reframe your fears. If we don't, who knows that if we do not have fears, we do not need courage, right? So the unfortunate thing is that a lot of times these fears hold us back. They stop us from growing. And so we need the courage, we need to develop the courage to act in spite of our fears. So the objective of R is to identify your fears. If you do not identify your fears, you cannot overcome them. And sometimes this is not as easy as it sounds. There are these things that, who has heard about limiting beliefs? So limiting beliefs very often are manifestations of types of fears, specific fears, right? And so I may have a limiting belief that, my limiting belief may be that I don't know enough to present to others. I don't know enough. I don't have enough knowledge to sit in front of all of you people and present to you. And so that's my limiting belief. That is my fear, right? And so what this R does, by reframing your fears, like I said, you have to identify those fears before you can reframe them. This helps you to identify those fears, those beliefs, those bad habits that are holding you back. And this can be a very interesting and liberating exercise. How do you do that? There are a lot of ways you can achieve this, but the tool that I've used for this is called the fear inventory. And so basically what the fear inventory is it's a list you list all your fears. Take a sheet of paper or your journal, you sit down and you list everything, all your fears, all your doubts. So for instance, things like, I will fail. I'm afraid that I will fail. I am afraid that people will laugh at me. I'm afraid that people will judge me. I'm just not good enough. So you list all of these fears. And for some of us, it can be pretty extensive. So once you have listed the fears, the next step is for you to begin to challenge those fears. I started off by talking about presumptions, rebuttable and non-rebuttable presumptions. A lot of times, our fears, I dare say 99% of the times, our fears are rebuttable presumptions. They are things that we hold to be true and sacrosanct, but in the face of evidence, they fall apart. So, challenge every single fear. And you decide if this fear is rebuttable or irrebuttable. You know, one of the beautiful things in life is that there is evidence all around us. I was listening to a podcast some time back, and the lady said something really powerful. She said that a lot of times we convince ourselves that we cannot do X, Y, Z. All we need to do is to look around us, and we will find somebody doing exactly that with less resources than you have at your disposal. And that person doing that thing, that person achieving that thing, stands as evidence that it is doable, that it is achievable. So, when you are challenging all your fears, look around you for the evidence. Remember what I said about rebuttable presumptions. They fall in the face of evidence. Now, once you have identified your fears, you have challenged them, the next step is for you to reframe them. You reframe each and every fear with a more empowering belief. And so, interesting story. And when I say this a lot of times, people roll their eyes and they don't believe me. I grew up being a very shy child. I grew up not just even a child, I grew up being a very shy person. I was literally the kind of person that would walk into the room with my head low, hanging low, look for a corner to sit down, hide. Once the meeting is over, before people get up, I'm out and I've gone. Because I did not believe that I had the confidence to interact with people. Until I started to reframe that fear of talking to people, that fear of interacting with people. I had to start to reframe that fear with more empowering beliefs. So I started telling myself, people will actually want to talk to me. People find me interesting. I'm intelligent. I have contributions to make to these conversations. And the more I reframed those fears into empowering beliefs, the easier it became for me to walk into a room and not even just join conversations, but even start conversations. Okay, next. O stands for own your why. Own your why. And the objective of this is to anchor your actions in purpose. Anchor your actions in purpose. Everyone has purpose. The minute you can identify your why, it gives you a stronger case to do. No, let me rephrase that. The minute you can identify your why, it gives credence to your what. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Fantastic. Now, I like the tool here is called the 5 whys exercise. The 5 whys exercise. I'm sure some of you know it. And what the 5 whys exercise does is that it helps you to deepen that purpose and that motivation to do what you need to do. So how does the 5 whys exercise work? It's very simple. So you identify an action. You identify a goal. So for instance, I want to grow my business. Is my goal. I want to grow my business. And then I ask myself, why? Then I answer it. So I might say, I want to grow my business. Why? Because I need to increase my finances. I need more money. So I need more money. Why? Why do I need more money? Oh, because I want to. Why do I need more money? Who can? I have bills to pay. Bills day. So the question is, why? Why do you have bills? And so the 5 whys exercise helps you to question each answer until you get to the roots of your purpose. You get to your motivating why. That fuel that will motivate you to do what you need to do. And so you see, so sometimes we have things that we say, we have goals that we want to achieve, right? We tell ourselves, I want to do this. At the end of the day, you run that goal through the 5 whys exercise, and you may very well discover that it's not really what I want to do. It really is not what I want to do. And so it helps you to focus, to hone in on exactly why you want to do what you want to do, and gives you the motivation and the focus to do exactly that. Next slide. Oh, we're on O already. Okay. W. So for those of you that are just joining either online or physically, we are discussing the what I call the growth framework. The growth framework. The growth framework for taking action. Okay. So we've discussed. So what's G? Ground. Go on. Ground yourself in reality. Perfect. R. Reframe your fears. Is that R? Okay, yes, reframe your fears. Okay. O. Own your why. Exactly. So now we're on W. Work with what you have. Work with what you have. This one, so I have a mentor who says that how does he say that thing exactly? I'll remember it. I want to say it exactly the way he says it because it makes so much sense. But work with what you have, right? And this basically helps you to leverage the resources that you have at your disposal today. So a lot of times we want to do something. So we want to achieve something. We have a goal that we want to achieve or attain. And then we tell ourselves, if only I had X, Y, Z. If I had more knowledge. If I know these people. If I could go to this place. If I had access, I would be able to achieve that goal. The reality of life is that we have exactly what we need today to start the journey to where we want to go. They say the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. So a lot of times, what we have our resources, the resources we have internally and externally, are enough to get us from point A to point B, from point B to point C. Now, the beautiful thing is that as we traverse that journey, a lot of times we now begin to accumulate and acquire other resources that we did not have at our disposal to start with. I remember now. My mentor would say, your problem is not what you don't have. Your problem is what you have, but you don't know how to use. So, how do we identify what we have? How do we identify our resources? There are two broad classifications of resources, right? We have internal and we have external resources. So there's a tool called the resource inventory worksheet. And so that helps us to identify the resources we have at our disposal and to deploy them efficiently. So what are internal resources? Our skills, for instance. So let me explain how the resource inventory worksheet works. And I wish I had come with paper and pens, would have done a practical thing now. So you take a piece of paper and you draw a table, right? So you draw a table with 3 columns. The first column, at the top of the first column, you write category, right? The middle column, you write prompts. Who uses ChatGPT here? Or any other AI? Claude AI, ChatGPT, Copilot. Anybody who uses? I'm surprised everybody's not raising hands. Right. So in order to get the right answers from the AI, you have to give it the right prompt. Right. So in the resource inventory worksheet, your middle column is your prompts. And then the last column, the outer column, is your answers. So, category. Remember I said you have internal resources, you have external resources. So within the worksheet, you can group them into 2, or you could simply just do them at the same time. So some people would, for instance, say, I want to go through my internal resources first, list my internal resources first, then I would list my external resources. You could do them together, anything works, whichever works for you. So now, we have 3 columns. We have category, we have prompts, and we have answers, right? So for instance, under categories, let's look at our internal resources, right? So one category of resources that we have is our skill. So the prompt, so under category, you write skill or skills, right? Now, under prompt, you ask yourself a question. So like if you're used to, like I said, you're used to using ChatGPT, for example, you ask it a question, it gives you an answer. So under prompt, you say, what skills do I have? What skills, and it doesn't have to be this exact wording, but it simply asks something like, what skills do I have that I can leverage on today? Then you move to the next column, the next cell, and you begin to answer. I have speaking skills. I have web design skills. I have video editing skills. I have writing skills, and so on and so forth. So you list the skills that you have, right? Then you go to the next. So all you're doing is all the resource inventory worksheet does is that it helps you to identify your resources, right? Okay. So another category, for instance, would be strengths. What are my core strengths, or what are my personal strengths and traits? What are my personal strengths or traits? Answer could be you have an analytical mind, or you have empathy, or you have patience, or you have any list of strength, things that you consider to be a strength. Very interesting story. Under the resource inventory worksheet, I've seen where somebody listed under strengths wickedness. Wickedness, yes. Yeah. Wickedness. Okay. He needs the wickedness to move to the next level. So you list all your internal strengths. So let's look at an external resource now, for instance. An external resource could be, one category could be people. People, right? So your prompt is, who are the people I know? Who are the people I have access to that can help me move, or that can help me to achieve my goals? You simply list them on your answer column. It could be your mentor, your father, your pastor, your lawyer, your doctor. You list all the people, and so on and so forth. So you identify different categories. So we've identified skills, strength, people. Okay, let me take one more category from any of you sitting here. Either internal or external. Internal or external. I need to be sure that we understand this. Anybody, or should I call someone? You want to help us out? Can we get a mic, please? Yes, so just use the mic, please.
For internal, we can look at trainings.
Very good. So
trainings, certifications, degrees.
So can we do this? So that is qualifications.
Yeah.
Right. So qualifications, for instance, can be a category, right? Funny enough, qualifications is external.
I was trying to see where it was better suited.
Yes.
Because if I want to take qualifications as trainings, it will be internal. Because that speaks to what I have taken out of those processes. But if I want to take it as certifications, it will be external. It will be the validity people have given to the skills I possess.
So let me ask you this. In your opinion, one category, I would say one category that we could list there is experiences. So would you classify that as an internal resource or an external resource?
It's the same argument, because it depends on the strength I'm trying to draw from the experiences. We could go through the same experience and it can count for us differently. And so what I pick out of those experiences, for instance, if I've gone through difficulty, is a strength, because it can toughen me and make me more resolute. And so if I want to speak of an experience with regards to my ability to be resolute, that would be internal.
That would be internal, absolutely. I agree with you.
But if I want to speak of experience as to track record that people can confirm, that would be external.
That would be external. I agree with you 100%. Thank you so much. Are we following? Okay, so we're almost at the end. Next slide. So T is take one bold step. Just one. Take one bold step. Now, the objective of T, of taking one bold step, is to help you to build momentum through action, right? Even the smallest action, even a small action, breeds confidence. So a lot of times we are afraid to take actions because we are looking at the huge thing that we have to do. So just taking one step will help you to create the momentum that you need to take all the actions that you need to take. Now, there's a tool called the 15-minute courage challenge. The 15-minute courage, the 15-minute courage challenge. And what it does is that it helps you to spark that action. Now, how does it work? So, take a task that you have been putting off, you have been avoiding. So you know that, for instance, let's look for a goal, a practical goal. Okay, fantastic. Write a book. So your goal is to write a book. But you have been putting it off. You have been putting it off. In order for you to write the book, you have to sit down and either with your laptop or your pen and paper and actually start to write. Isn't it? The book is not going to write itself. So, what is that one task that you must do that you have been avoiding? You've been procrastinating. Take that task. So your task now is, your goal is, I want to write a book. Break it down into small components. I want to write one chapter. Okay. You have broken it down from one book to one chapter. Break it down further. I want to write 20 pages. Break it down further. Let me even start with 5 pages. So you are looking at book. You are looking at 5 pages. Which one do you think you will likely act upon? Which one would motivate you to take action? 5 pages. 3 paragraphs. Absolutely. Start with 1 line. The trick is this. Set a timer and sit with that timer and take action. So if your goal is to write a book, your goal is, I want to write a book. Set a timer and start writing. Set a 15-minute timer and start writing. At the end of 15 minutes, you may have written, but hopefully you have not written 3 paragraphs in 15 minutes. At the end of 15 minutes, you may have finished 1 chapter. You may have finished 10 pages. That's okay. The next day, you do the same thing. So it's action, rinse, repeat. Okay? So, and in that 15 minutes, don't focus on perfection. Just take action. Anyhow it comes out, just take action. You can come back later and perfect. But for that 15 minutes, just write. Just write as it comes. Jaga jaga, as they say. Just write. Okay, are we okay? We're good? Okay. Should we move on? Should we move on? All right, let's move on to the last one. Let's move on to the last one. H stands for honor your presence. Honor your progress. My apologies. Honor your progress. And the objective of H is that it helps you to build confidence through celebration and reflection. Look, so for some of you may know this. I play golf. I play golf. And it's been a journey. the interesting thing about golf is that when you see people play golf on TV, it looks so simple. It looks so easy. And I was so sure that I would go to the golf club and on the first day I would show them that, look, this guy is the next Tiger Woods. I wish. Oh my. Oh my. It's a journey. It's a journey. And the good thing is this. I am not today where I was when I started. And so I celebrate myself. Oh, when I play, thank you. Every day I play. Look, so let me delve a little bit deeper into that. So in golf you have what you call holes. So you play 9 holes or 18 holes. And of course those holes refer to, when the little pots, the ball enters those holes. So you have 9 holes or 18 holes. When you're playing 18 holes, so golf is a game that takes hours, regardless of whether you're playing 9 holes or 18 holes, and it requires stamina. So I remember the first time I attempted to play 18 holes, I gave up along the way. I was like, I beg. I cannot come and go and die. Who sent me message? But you see, the first day I played 18 holes successfully, even though I played a horrible game, I completed 18 holes. So I gave myself a good pat on the back. When and as my scores and my skills improve, my wife knows this. I come on and I'm like, oh man, my game today was great. By the way, even before I get home, I've hailed myself. I've hailed and I've celebrated myself. And then I get home and I celebrate myself some more. Because when you can track your progress, it motivates you to continue. Right? So, one very great tool for tracking your progress is what you call a progress reflection journal. And it's, as the name implies, it is a journal where you take down, you note your presence. You note your progress, You note your progress, and then you go back from time to time, and you're able to see how well you have been doing. You can see where you started from. You can see where you are. So it helps you to visualize your growth. So how does a progress reflection journal work? It's very simple. And this journal can just be a notebook. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, by the way. Get a notebook. Get a pen. It could even be digital. So if you have notes on your phone or on your laptop, you can do it in digital form, right? At the end of each week, you write 3 things. At the end of each week, you write 3 things. Now, what are those 3 things? You write 3 wins that you had that week. 3 wins. You also write 1 challenge that you encountered that week, right? And then you write 1 lesson that you learned that week. So I'll take it again. You write 3 wins that you had that week, right? You write 1 challenge that you encountered that week. And then you write 1 lesson that you learned that week. You do this at the end of every week. So, what happens is, when you go back week after week. So, by the way, when you write them down, you don't just write it down and then you drop the book and you never go back there. Every week, when you're putting in your new entry for that week, you go back to the previous week and reflect on the progress you've made. You'll find out, for instance, that some of your challenges from the preceding weeks have become your wins in the following weeks. Yeah? And one of the things also that what that does for you is that, look here, growth is not physical. It's not just physical. So whether you're growing your career, you're growing your business, you're growing your finances, whatever it is, it's not just the physical act of increase. It starts internally. If you want to grow your business, for instance, you have to develop the capacity internally to take that business to the next level, to the next stage, right? So, what this does for you is that when you are reflecting, you begin to note that you begin to note the mental and emotional changes that you have made over the weeks. These are the things that will help you to grow. Okay. So let's do a quick recap. A quick recap, starting from G. So I want responses now. What is G? What is G? We're discussing the growth framework. What is G? G stands for what? Ground yourself in reality. Very good. What is R? So that means you guys are not taking notes. Reframe your fears. Exactly. What is O? Own your why. What is W? Work with what you have. Very good. What is T? Take one bold step. And what is H? Honor your progress. How many of us know that if we follow this framework consistently, we will record growth? How many of us know this? How many of us believe that if we follow this framework consistently, we will record growth? If you know, wave your hand. Thank you very much. Growth. Next slide. Growth is never accidental. In conclusion, growth is never accidental. It is earned, one step, one decision, one brave moment at a time. Growth is earned. Courage is not the absence of fear. We established this already. It is not the absence of fear. It is a decision to act in spite of the fear. That is what courage is. And finally, the growth framework gives you the mindset and the tools to build your courage like a muscle. It helps you to build the courage to grow. And when it is applied consistently, it transforms hesitation to action. It transforms fear to focus. It transforms purpose into action. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll take your questions now. Next slide, I think. Yeah. Questions, contributions.
Thank you very much for this wonderful session.
Yes, sir.
It is eye-opening. One of the principles I believe about life is everything is science. And the benefit of that approach to me is realizing that there's a method to everything. Children grow in the womb. Why don't they grow on the shelf? there are particular requirements. But until science was good enough to write out the specific requirements, the exact temperature, the exact nutrients that are required, it was impossible to make an artificial incubator to carry babies. Now that we know the exact details of what is required for that growth to take place, now there are incubators that can carry pregnancy. It's just not being mass produced. And really, that is what today's lecture can be likened to. And I really want to thank you again. I would have loved that these slides are available, and particularly if it's possible to specifically equip, fortify the slides with those tools. Because as you were speaking, I was trying to search out those tools, and I realized that many of them are available on the internet. In fact, in cases where those tools are not possible in form of pictures, links to where they could be gotten can be included on this slide. If we can be deliberate with growth following this framework, it is impossible not to grow. Because all that has stopped us from growing is that we have not fulfilled the right specifications required for growth. Now, that said, I want to seek a clarification. It is particularly about the 15 minutes challenge. Some of the books that I've read that were coming to mind, one of them particularly is this book by Brian Tracy, Eat That Frog. Yes. And the concept of Eat That Frog, one of the early chapters, is to start with the ugliest of them. And for me as a person, that can be challenging. If I have a book to write, if I have let's say I have a manuscript to write, I would want to achieve the most difficult part of the task first. And so, but that is against Yoruba wisdom. Yoruba wisdom says that ibi pelebe, Latin more leje. That concept is start from the simplest task and you'll get to the top of it. The principle of the 15 minutes challenge is also more in support of, more like, just do whatever you can do. Just start. Take the first action. So my question is, where is the balance? Because from Brian Tracy's perspective, really, if you can eat, when I wake up in the morning, I wake up full of energy. That's the time for me to do the most significant task, the most difficult mental task. If I fail to do it in the morning, I most likely will not be able to do it at all. But sometimes the overwhelming need to do that most difficult task can stop me from doing anything all the same. How do I find the balance? Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is an awesome question. And you know, I'll start by saying that I'm glad that you used the word balance. One of the things that I said in the course of our conversation was that there is no one size fits all. A lot of times we do have to the action, the most beneficial action, or the right action, the right decision, a lot of times is predicated on your values, right? And that which you want to achieve. So for me personally, for someone like me personally, I am blessed and cursed with the fact that I tend to be a perfectionist. And so because of this, okay, let me give you an example. this, the slides. So let me ask you guys this: were the slides, were they nice? Were they fine? Okay. When I did these slides, I just told myself, just do. Because typical me, let me tell you, typical me. And if anyone here has seen slides that I would typically do is, these slides or more, are they finished work? If I do say so myself. But I realized something. Because I want to dot my I's and cross my T's, I will not finish. Yes. I will not finish. And so I spend so much time fine-tuning from the beginning that by the time I am done, I have run out of time. And so it may be beautiful from the beginning, but you see that by the time I get towards the end, I have lost that quality because now I am rushing. On the flip side, I have realized that when I do the quote unquote unimportant things first, it gets all those other stuff out of the way and it gives me the opportunity to focus on this one thing that means the most. Now because I have cleared up my table, I know that this is the last thing that I need to do. I take my time. I do it properly. I'm not rushing to finish. I'm not rushing to meet any deadline. I'm not rushing to do any other tasks because I have taken care of them first. I've gotten those out of the way. Is this an easy thing? For me, no. For me, no. But having said that, I'll also say this, that there are times when, regardless of what I've just said now, there are times when I will still face this most difficult task first. Why? Because of the value attached to it for me. And so these other ones, even if I do not complete them, because of the value that I have placed on this particular task, it more than makes up for all the other ones for me. So for me, that's where I kind of balance it out. I must determine the value each task, each goal means to me personally. And there are different ways to gauge that value. It could be in terms of personal fulfillment. It could be in terms of impact. It could be, look, there are different criteria that we can use to evaluate and place value on our tasks. And I think that really lies within each and every one of us. So I don't know if I
think you did. Thank you very much, Barrister. Thank you so much. So I have a few things that are jotted down, and maybe I should say coincidentally, that's one of the things I had in my jottings, you know. So I'm not going to bother to go over the other things. Just this one, or probably just one, this and this next one. Yep. So just like you said it, I put here in my own note, just take action. Don't think perfection. And when you said it, it resonated so much with me because I can relate.
We got a day.
I want it to be perfect. It never works that way. So because you want it to be perfect, you have so many things that are undone.
Yes.
That have been left undone because, it must be perfect. But in reality, I mean, that's why I said this speaks so much to me because, I mean, you can't really start perfect, as it were. That's why there's always room for improvement. Now, when you said that, something came to mind, right? So, maybe not on a commercial scale, but I do graphic design, you know, I do a few things here and there. I remember when I first started graphic design. I think last year I saw one of the designs I did like 4 or 5 years ago, and I looked at it, and I asked myself, "Were you the one that did this?" Man, it was ugly, ugly, but I did it, and I pushed it out. Do you understand? And then over time, I have improved on the things I do, right? Now, so if I didn't start, if I was waiting until I was perfect before I could start, I probably wouldn't be doing it today.
Yes, sir.
So for me, it resonates, and I should say that this is one of the things I've been dealing with myself on lately. It's that whatever I find myself to do it. Don't wait until it's perfect. Don't wait until everything is perfect. Don't wait until you know how to do it well. I mean, everybody starts with a step. Yes. One single step. I mean, I like the question. I can't remember where I heard it, but someone said, someone asked the question and said, the professionals today, the world-renowned professionals today, they were once amateurs.
Absolutely.
So what if they never started? What if they never just pushed? If you see someone who is a professional basketballer, a professional footballer today, at some point he was an amateur or she was an amateur. So what if the person just felt like, I must be a professional before I start? No, it never works that way. So once again, thank you. That's my own take home. I mean, it further enforces my push to start and not just wait until it's perfect. And the second thing I was going to say is what your mentor said. So I don't know if I wrote it exactly the way it was.
So let me say, because I actually realized that I didn't say it correctly.
Okay.
But let me say it now.
Okay.
It is not what you do not have that is holding you back.
Okay.
It is what you have but do not know how to use.
How to use. Thank you very much. All right.
Okay, any other questions? Do we have questions online?
No, just comments, just people commenting on what we have said. Someone said also here, don't wait to be perfect, yeah? Ground yourself in reality. So I don't think there are questions, but just comments. But I think we have quite a number of comments.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So I'll just end by saying that the growth framework, and I didn't point this out, but I need to point this out now, that the growth framework, so the way I designed the growth framework, it's not a linear framework. It's not a chronological framework. And what I mean by that is you don't necessarily, yes, exactly. So you can pick up where it depends on where you are in your life's journey. You can pick any one and then use that to go to the next stage. Thank you very much, and God bless us all.